Hello, friends. We are in a troubling time when it comes to misinformation. Here at Forbidden Knowledge News, I've always taken an unbiased, open-minded, and responsible approach to presenting my own theories, and the views of our guests do not reflect that of my own. This show is for entertainment purposes only, and any information presented during this show is a live-action role-play scenario. Conspiracies are definitely fun to discuss in a responsible way. My suggestion to everyone that has an audience and presents theories and possibilities should present them as such, and in no way present unsubstantiated information as truth. All that being said, enjoy this episode. Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is Nikki Nicholas. First, a great way to help support Forbidden Knowledge News and help us finish producing our upcoming film, Doors of Perception, which we're hoping to submit by early January. Watch the Forbidden documentary, Occult Louisiana. That's available on Tubi, Roku channel, and multiple streaming platforms. Also, you can get a Rokfin premium membership, rokfin.com/FKN Plus, and download our audio podcast directly through Spreaker. We are booking guests for December. If you have suggestions or you'd like to be a guest, email me forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Today I want to welcome back to the show Nikki Nicholas. She is a coach, a subconscious mind and shadow work expert who helps conscious individuals get past their toughest challenges in life. She uses her 17-plus years of knowledge on the subconscious mind to elicit profound change and transform the lives of those she works with. Nikki, welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. This is great.
Thank you so much for coming back on. I really enjoyed our discussion last time. Today we're going to once again explore the subconscious mind as it relates to healing, shadow work, and self-exploration. And right now it can become very difficult to navigate some of the insanity. And there are some people that dive into conspiratorial topics with very little spiritual foundation and understanding of how much unseen energies can affect what is unfolding and how much has a spiritual foundation. So now is a great time to explore shadow work and how the subconscious plays into aspects of our lives. But first, it's been a while since you've been on. Remind the audience a little bit about yourself and your work.
Yeah, so yes, our last conversation I absolutely loved. We touched on so many great subjects and topics, and I opened up in ways that I hadn't on other podcasts, so that was really fun. So I am a subconscious mind and shadow work expert. I call myself a mental and emotional wellness expert or coach. Essentially, I help people get through the challenging emotions that they go through in their life or problems that they're going through in their life. Understanding those problems from a subconscious mind perspective, knowing that, you might have a conscious intention that you want to do something in life, but for some reason you just can't get yourself to do it. That's because there are actually two parts of you. There's the conscious part of you, which you're very fully aware of, the logical, rational side of your mind. And then you have the subconscious part, which actually accounts for 95% of everything you think, do, all the behavior you take place in your life. So it's so paramount to understand that subconscious part of you. And so essentially what I do is people have problems in their life, and I kind of unravel and explain and show them how to understand within themselves how to pinpoint what is stopping them from living the life they want to live or doing what they want to do at a subconscious level, and remove the root of that subconscious block, I call it. So that's what I do in a nutshell. So yeah, getting into the election and everything that's going on, like you say, it's all about triggers. It's all about, you may be experiencing something just like anything, no matter what it happens to be in your outer world. If you are going through struggles, if you're going through challenges, you are inherently going to have certain emotions come up, and maybe certain, negative self-talk or chatter, mental chatter about, this isn't right, or negative conversations, like essentially thoughts and feelings, they will come up within you. And those are subconscious prompts telling you to do something or to look at something at a subconscious level. And so it's not the outside event that is taking place that is the issue. It is, how are you being triggered by that event, and what is it triggering within you? So if you are very angry about something, maybe it's pulling from something from your past when you were a child, and it's triggering you because you need to let out those pent-up emotions. So most people in modern society, not so much Eastern society, they're taught this stuff, but most people aren't so aware of how external circumstances can trigger internal things that need to be processed out. And the only reason that those things are there and need to be processed out is because you have something from your past that is, I guess, kind of like a bundle of neurons and all that kind of stuff within you, neurochemical responses within you that you just need to look at. Yeah.
Now can be a very difficult time for people to start to work on themselves and become aware of how their subconscious mind affects things because of the programming that we've been subjected to our entire lives, the level of propaganda to keep us in a certain state of thinking and awareness, in a state of health as well. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to imagine how much this level of control and propaganda has affected our collective subconscious and the way we react to things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So as you were speaking, it made me think of, back before I had my spiritual awakening, I was very much like, I was the kind of person where I'm like, I'm doing, and I know what's right. And if somebody crosses me in my life and I know they're wrong and I know I'm right, and then I will just like, in my head, I will be thinking like, they did this, they did this, they did this, they did this, or this is the injustice that I'm feeling. This is what I'm feeling internally. And these are all the reasons for it. And I'll like amplify that in my mind. I didn't realize back then that every single negative thought that I had, no matter how true it was about how right I was and how wrong that external person or circumstance was, how unjust the situation was, it didn't matter. It was the state that was being amplified within myself that was the issue. Again, the external triggering the internal. The internal state for me, it's kind of like if you're having a conversation, an argument with someone back and forth in your mind over and over and over again. Pay attention the next time it happens to the escalation in your negative emotion. You get angry, you get frustrated, you get annoyed and aggravated, and you just, it amplifies and escalates. You don't realize it. You think, I'm right. And you think you're justified in your rightness. And, you are, in all reality, you are right. But no matter how right you are doing damage to your state, to your energy. And thinking about the collective consciousness, it's the same thing. Like in a circumstance like this, where there's so much swing emotion, and I like to say the polarity, there's the positive emotion, there's the negative emotion. What you want to be as neutral as possible, because if you are feeding that negative emotion, then that's just amplifying the energy of the collective consciousness. So you can, and I mean, when you think about meditation and you think about like the gurus of spirituality, they say, send love or meditate on and amplify your sensations, the vibration of love. And that is so, so important because it balances things out, not just within you, but within, the energy of the world or wherever you're directing it. And that is paramount to essentially dealing with things that are challenging, is becoming aware of those negative emotions within you and knowing what to do about them, knowing how to balance them out so that they don't negatively affect your life more than that external circumstance did in the first place.
It seems like a lot of people like to keep a limited perspective. Could be a safe state of mind, a safe place for a lot of people, not to venture out and consider other people's ideas. But what I love the most about what I do is I've subjected myself to so many different theories and ideas and understandings over the years. And even though I may get off a conversation or a phone call with someone and think, oh my God, they're absolutely insane, there's at least one or two talking points that we went over that make me look at things in a different way, have a different perspective on things. And I think that's what we're lacking here, is the ability to first have compassion for someone else in their beliefs. Second, to at least have considerations and compare things, because I think everybody has a piece of the puzzle here. We just need to come together, and we're not going to solve anything unless we start doing that.
Mm-hmm. And you make a really good point. It makes me think of like thinking about other people's perspectives. That's, empathy essentially. And I remember we're going into politics, we're going into COVID. I'm just about to say COVID. So I remember with COVID, it was interesting. So I was on a family thread, and one family member had said something on one side of the polarity, I call it, negative about something about COVID. And then somebody had a rebuttal about something positive about COVID. And they were fighting back and forth in this thread. And I just remember looking at it, and they were arguing at each other and just basically disregarding everything the other person was saying and just plain not listening to the other person because their point mattered more. And I'm looking at this argument and I'm thinking, guys, neither of you are wrong. You both have 100% valid points. You're saying that this is important to you and that nobody's paying attention to it. You're saying that this is important to you and that nobody's paying attention to this. And here are the injustices on both sides. And I'm looking at this play out and I'm like, you are on the same team. You're on the same page. You're just not seeing it because you're blinded by I'm right, the polarity again. I'm right, you're wrong. Or the flip. And it's like, no matter who you talk to in society, if somebody has a strong opinion, I have seen and I've just witnessed and really dissected this, is that people tend to have blinders out where it's like they could both be expressing the same thing or things that would help each other. And if they only got on the same team about their mindset, about the issue, then the energy could be focused on helping each other, on building each other up and helping both parties instead of all that energy. And that's the thing, is like, to what level is this energy here to distract, to put people in a state of negativity, to have that conflict, to have those arguments all the time, to have it where everybody is in the state of feeling these negative emotions and perpetuating them because they are right, they are just in everything they're saying.
Hello, friends. At some point in our journeys, we all need guidance and direction. One thing I've learned along the way is that there are many ways to connect with our soul mission. Jennifer Halcame offers over 30 years experience with intuitive tarot, life coaching, and energy and attachment clearing. She helps others with energetic blocks become aligned with their soul mission. She offers one-on-one or online Zoom sessions, and cases are assessed on an individual basis, and she works with everyone truly in need. You can email her now to set up a free consultation at jenniferhalcame@gmail.com or through Facebook Messenger. All those links are right in the description.
And they're so blinded to everything else because that's all they see. And so does that person. And so does that person. But, you could roll the dice and see, that person's going to be on this side of the fence. That person's going to be on this side of the fence. But when you boil it down, does it come down to? That person cares about their loved ones. That person cares about their country. That person cares about this same thing that the other person cares about just as much. And they're fighting tooth and nail to protect what they care about most, which is the same as the other person. So it's just mind-blowing. And when you see this taking place, it's like, it's not about the external circumstance. People need to come together and start to see that everybody is the same. We all want the same things. It's just different ways to get there. And until that's visible, until that happens, that cohesion isn't going to happen. And progress in that way can't take place because there's just blinders.
You're absolutely right. At some level, whether you think it's woo-woo spiritual nonsense or not, we are all essentially one. And we have this illusion of separation, and it seems like that is what's causing all human conflict, is the illusion that we are separate from each other. Now, let's talk a little bit about how the subconscious mind can prevent us from achieving our goals in life and being happy, successful people. I used to be a victim of this myself. I would think myself out of things, wake up in a depressed state, feel like I wasn't good enough to do certain things. Talk a little bit about some of the reasons that you've noticed that the subconscious mind can hold people back.
So I would say the number one thing is fear. Like, I know last time I was on the show, you had mentioned that you had a corporate job and then you had to kind of take that leap in order to do what you're doing now. And I had the exact same thing. And for me, I had so much fear that was stopping me. I knew what I wanted to do in life. I knew that it wasn't what I was doing. But there was so much, like, every time I thought about doing it, I would put it off into the future, put it off into the future. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I don't need to do it. Society tells me one thing and I'm doing what society tells me. But this path that I want to go down is very ambiguous. It's very shady to me. Like, I can't really see the path forward and it's going to be a lot of work. And it's like, well, is that the right path? And so I would put it off and just feel that fear. But then years would go by and years would go by. And then that feeling would amplify and get more intense and more intense, going, you need to make a change. You need to make a change. And all I knew is I felt this feeling. And I'm like, what is this feeling? Why won't it go away? The feeling is your subconscious mind. The feeling is your prompt. Every single feeling we get in our lives is literally coming from our subconscious mind to tell us you need to do something or stop doing something. Every single feeling. And so if we ignore those feelings, they don't go away. Just like in my case, they will amplify and eventually lead to sickness. There's been so much research and so many studies out there that show, like, stress leads to sickness. For example, like, you can pinpoint what is causing what in different metaphysical anatomy type books that are out there. So that is a big part, is stopping yourself from doing something you want to do. And then you look at, if you're having a problem in life in general, you can always, so the way that I kind of dissect what is the cause, the root cause at a subconscious level of a problem, is if I were to ask, so say the audience right now, if they think of a problem that they're experiencing in their life and they close their eyes and they just sit with it, they will be able to pinpoint there is a negative emotion that they will feel that comes up somewhere in their body. Maybe they feel shame for doing something in their life, or guilt. Maybe they feel anger towards someone. So those emotions are there to be looked at and to be processed out, because I know it's cliche to say feelings are the language of the subconscious mind. Feelings are your subconscious mind speaking to you. But that's not a concept. That is literal. Like, your feelings, that is like we use English, we use words to speak. That is your subconscious mind. And you'll notice every feeling you have in you has a different, like, flavor to it. kind of like, I hate saying flavor because it's not the right word, but I don't think we have a term in English. It's kind of like, hearing different sounds. You hear different pitches. You can feel different feelings. Some are light feelings, some are dark, deep, intense, heavy feelings. But those different flavors are the different nuances of what your subconscious mind is saying to you. And those are prompts telling you, hey, you're not doing what you need to do, or hey, you need to do this. But nobody really gets the message. They don't know how to interpret that language, essentially. But interpreting it's very easy when you know. And that's what I teach people in my coaching.
When it comes to intrusive thoughts, negative thoughts, horrible things that just pop out of nowhere, like thinking about your dog dying or someone being murdered, I've had just weird things pop into my mind, and I'll be like, where did that come from? Where does this come from?
Yeah, so that's really cool. So it's kind of like dreams. I did a lot of work studying dreams. Again, it all comes down to the feeling. There's something that needs to be processed out, and we just, again, don't know how to look at it. But like, say a dream. So if you have like a crazy dream, and I actually had this where dreams, so I would be meditating and dreams would just come to me, like memories of dreams would come to me. And as they did, I would just watch them play out. And as they played out, I'd start to feel the feelings associated with these dreams. And as I tapped into these feelings, I say tapped into, but what I mean is I looked at them with my inner awareness. I felt the sensation to the fullest. And I put my attention on that sensation. And as I did, more dreams came up, because dreams, if we haven't dealt with something, we'll continue to have dreams about the same topic. And I use air quotes for the word topic, because obviously the subconscious mind through dreams speaks in metaphor, and it doesn't make sense to the conscious mind. So we're seeing images, left, right, and center. And we're like, okay, this dream made no sense. Neither did this one. But you'll notice that as you're meditating, if you're meditating on a certain feeling, a certain emotion, all these different dreams that seemingly have nothing to do with each other will pop into your awareness. And then you'll notice the link that ties them all together is the feeling. And so you can see that connection in meditation. And I did that multiple times for years. And then for me, I go into the feeling. And once I go into the feeling, then I process it out. Once I process it out, then it's not an issue. Also, you were saying sometimes they're just random weird things. So that's another thing, is that what we resist persists. So for example, okay, this is going to sound really weird. And I think I've told one person in my life this. When I was like, I think a teenager, I remember there was a homeless man, and me and my family were in McDonald's, and there was this homeless man. He walked in, and I remember getting this thought in my head because he was hungry, and I felt so bad for him. But in my head, I had the thought, and it wasn't me saying this, but it was my subconscious mind going, saying something. And it said, he doesn't deserve to eat. And in my head, I was like, what the heck is that? Like, where did that come from? I didn't think that thought. That's a horrible thought. And then I felt horrible for thinking the thought, even though I didn't think it. And I'm like, where did this come from? And every now and then, years would go by, and every now and then I would see somebody in the same kind of situation, and I would get that thought. And I'm like, what the heck is this? And I was so confused. And I'd try to push it away because I'm like, that's a horrible thing to think. And I'm not, whatever. I don't like that thought. And I would push it away. It turns out, again, through meditation, I found an experience when I was little. I was with a caregiver, and I was, I don't know, maybe like 5. And I was at a table with them, and they got mad because me and my brothers were screwing around. And this caregiver said to me, if you don't stop, then you don't get to eat. You don't deserve to eat. And instantly I was like, that's it. And that was it, because as soon as that happened, I could feel things clear out. And I know what it feels like to process out certain emotions and certain things within me, certain blocks. But in that moment, I was like, wow, like something from when I was that little. Obviously, I do this all the time, so it's commonplace now. But at that time, I was like, holy crap. And it illuminated the whole thing for me, because I was like, forever, I was like, why am I thinking these horrible thoughts? And I'm like, it was like a struggle. It was like a battle with myself. Like there were two parts of me where it's like the normal me, which is my conscious mind, the logical, rational personality side of myself, which, I am this way. But then there's the shadow side of myself, which is these things I try to repress because I don't like them and I know they're bad. And I try to push them down, but what you resist persists. So it was persisting until I was willing to process it out, i.e., look at it at a certain level to understand it, unravel it, and basically let it be, accept it, accept that, you know what, this exists in my field, this exists in my reality. It doesn't have to be me, it's not a part of me, but it exists, like the shadow, like any shadow self, part of yourself. So I hope that depicted it, but essentially it's like you never know what you're going to have, but it's coming for some reason, and it's typically triggered by something outside of you. You'll feel a feeling, and then you'll have the thought and feeling loop go back and forth, back and forth. And it's just about discovering what is that root, and it's typically something from your past.
These intrusive thoughts, do you think it's relatively the same cause for if you have this feeling of imminent doom, like something terrible is going to happen and you just can't shake that feeling and you keep waking up with this feeling of dread? I've had temporary times in my life where I would feel that way, but I know that there's a lot of folks who feel it more often. Is this the same sort of thing?
Yeah, so I mean, there could be different scenarios where maybe the doom is accurate, but assuming that it's a subconscious pattern that is just a pattern that's a loop that you can't escape. So I have released in clients so many of these types of things. So you can either have subconscious blocks within your body, in certain locations of your body, whether small, in certain very small pockets, or maybe in multiple locations at once, like maybe both arms, both legs, or maybe shooting down your body or your entire body all at once. You can also have them outside of your body where you can experience them in your entire reality, your field. So kind of a side tangent, there's this book called, I think it's called Stealing Fire. They talked about in that book how there's a mechanism, kind of like a switch in our brains, where naturally, without this switch, we do not have a boundary internally, how we represent the boundary for our body. If this switch is like not turned on, not flicked, then we are everything in terms of how we view ourselves. Kind of like when you're first born. You don't really know that you are you when you're not everything like everything else outside of you. Essentially, the Stealing Fire book talks about how if the switch isn't flicked, then you kind of assume that everything is you. So that, everything is you. You don't have a boundary to your body is the same thing as you're essentially, you can have a block, or you can feel the vibrations, you can sense things or energy outside of your body into your field. And so for me, I have released quite a few things in terms of things that are outside of my body. So I don't know the exact mechanism or relationship between what makes something outside of your body and big and like reality based. But I remember when I was younger, it was about 2017 when I first started my spiritual awakening. I remember the very first like outside of my body block that I released was essentially, I became aware, like you say, of the doom feeling. A lot of people will feel that like in their chest, their stomach, but some people like me would feel it outside of their body. So in their field. And there's like a specific, like, again, flavor of the vibration, the sensation. It's not so much an emotion if it's outside, but essentially when I in 2017, I found something that was an outside of my body sensation, and it was like a weakness. It was like a weakness that I had felt about myself in reality since I was like very, very, very young, like pre-kindergarten. I remember it forever. And I remember through meditation, because that's how I release all of these blocks, subconscious blocks. I remember focusing on that sensation and doing the processes that I do to release it. And I remember it was crazy because I was about to release it and I was like thinking to myself, but who will I be if I am not weak? As in, I had taken on that weakness as who I am as an identity. And so then I released that, and it turns out again to be something from my past, pre-kindergarten, where I felt weak for some reason or another. Some situation had happened, and that had stuck with me, like imprinted within me as a memory, as you know, in my field. And so when you say the doom, I automatically imagine, because I've had it both in my body and outside of my body, the same kind of thing. And they all get released the same way for me through meditation. But the same thing has happened for every single one, where when I find out what it is, it was because there was something from my past, from very, very long ago, that made me feel like doom will happen for whatever reason. And I've had clients too, where it's like, well, maybe a parent made them feel like every time something happened, something bad would happen to them, you know? And so you just kind of get in this repetitive pattern internally at a subconscious level of, if this, then this bad thing will happen. And then it kind of just, it gets so ingrained in you. It's like going down a trail over and over and over and over. And as you go down that trail more and more, it's well trodden more and more. And unless you shift to a new trail and let that one overgrow, it'll just keep basically digging deeper and deeper and deeper, just like this pattern. So it is easy to release when you know how to do it. But yeah, it really depends on where that doom feeling is. And it's definitely going to be tied to something from your past.
Let's go a little deeper into the woo-woo waters and talk about your understanding of how much outside energies may affect our subconscious thoughts, such as what some may consider attachments, different non-human intelligences, possibly.
I know we talked about non-human intelligences in the first episode, or sorry, last time I was on, and I have had many, many interactions with that. I'm not sure anymore where I stand on how things interact, because me and my friends a few years ago, so I had a friend who was really, really into energy work, and we would like send each other thoughts. We would, do all this stuff with energy, connecting chakras just to see if the other person could tell that it happened. And it was crazy how often it actually did happen, and it did work. And then you think about when you interact with somebody, and say there's somebody who's very, very negative, and you start to feel and take on that energy. That is a real thing. That is a very, very real thing. So I do believe in all of that kind of stuff. I don't know. I can't say definitively anything other than my experience, but I have experienced that, when people are around and they're really heavy energy, or they're sending you bad energy, it can be challenging, because I, for one, am very like an empathetic. And so I take on that energy. And that's actually been my practice recently, has been trying to, despite others' energy coming in, and I can sense that, still kind of maintaining that that light, that boundary, I suppose, that is that like pillar of who I really am at an energetic level, and not letting it stifle me, essentially.
Let's talk a little bit about how marijuana can help people dive a little deeper into their subconscious blocks and even assist with some shadow work.
Yeah, so I've been using like THC oil to start to meditate, and the way that I see it, it really, really helps me go into those and access those deeper levels. So, And I have done client sessions where they want to go into something that they can't necessarily find very easily. Like I say, I go in through feeling or sensation, and some people have a hard time actually feeling their emotions, feeling the sensations, or a hard time telling how their thoughts are interacting with them, because that's a big part of how you release them, is understanding and seeing how your thoughts are coming to you. Are you getting visual representations of the thoughts? Are you seeing scenes play out in your mind? Are you seeing images? Are you hearing the dialogue between you and another? Or is it, for example, is it like the voice of your father when you were a child telling you, like beating you up every day? Like, are you beating yourself up in the same phrasing that your father used when he was doing it to you as a child? That kind of thing. So yeah, so the subconscious mind, basically it can come in all different kinds of forms. And I think that's probably the biggest thing there, is knowing that whether it's a feeling, whether it's a thought, just kind of understanding and dissecting how exactly it's coming to you can tell you so much information and help you really to understand it in a way that you can really dissect it and then release it from the other side.
Now, speaking of shadow work, how would you describe this to people, and what would you say is some of the importance of doing shadow work?
So shadow work, I would say essentially is, like I said earlier, well, everything obviously is your subconscious mind. It's 95% of who you are, what you do, the actions you take, the thoughts you have, the feelings you have in your life. So shadow work is essentially, there's the part of you that, again, the polarity, there's a part of you that you like, the part of you that you see yourself as, or you want to see yourself as, and the part of you that you present to the world, that you allow yourself to see. And then there's the other part of you, which is the part of you like that sees yourself as weak or incapable, or maybe you have a bad temper and you act a certain way. Essentially the part of you that you don't want the world to see and that you repress and you don't want to see yourself. And so essentially, like I said earlier, what we resist persists. So if we're constantly pushing down those parts of us that do exist and we're invalidating them, we're pretending that they're not there, that they don't exist within us. That's our subconscious mind. It's going to go, okay, it's going to bring those things up, just like I was talking about earlier, and go, okay, well, this does exist. You can't just invalidate me. This needs to be looked at. You can't just pretend that this doesn't, it's not a part of you. And that's why, again, you'll get dreams, you'll get recurring dreams. You won't be able to sleep. And it'll be like maybe the same nightmare, maybe the same, like it's all related, because we are whole when it comes to, like, as human beings on this planet, without society telling us what's good and what's bad. We just are. If you think about a tiger that's in Africa or wherever, lion or any kind of carnivore around the world, or even a bird. I saw a video of a bird and it picked up a gopher and it just started eating it while it was alive. And it's like, to me, I'm like, wow, that's horrible. That's so mean. I feel so bad for that gopher. But to the bird, it's just life. It just is. Everything just is, until we are part of society and we get, morals, we get standards, rules. We're often indoctrinated into certain ways of thinking. This is good. This is bad. This is right. This is wrong. But within ourselves, we humans are animals. We're just like that bird, but we have certain principles that we live by. And so because we have these certain principles, we have this, I'm good, I'm bad if I do this or don't do this. And so we reprimand ourselves or push it down. If there's something we don't like about ourselves, we try to hide it. But in trying to hide it, we never grow from it. We never learn from it. And that's part of the human experience. And when you repress that, then it will be pushed back up, brought back up from your subconscious mind, so that you do look at it in the ways that you need to look at it, typically when the conscious mind isn't looking. So again, like when you're going to sleep or whatever. So yeah, I would say that's pretty much it. It's we're just human. We just are. And just like animals, we just are. And you can't repress a part of who you are, or it will come to bite you essentially by your subconscious.
Right. Now, a lot of people hear the term shadow work and they don't know where to start. Is this some sort of physical work that I have to do? Where do I begin with this? Is there any certain techniques? What would you tell people that want to start making fundamental emotional and mental changes, but really don't know how to begin and are essentially terrified of facing some of these darker sides of themselves?
So on podcasts, I like to give away a technique. You can actually, if you go to my website, you can watch this technique being done on a host of a podcast. It's a great video. It's like 10 minutes long. But essentially what it is, so again, I go by feeling. So if you think about any problem that you have in your life, anybody who's listening right now, think about a problem and just feel where you feel a negative emotion in your body. It might be in your chest. It might be in your stomach. It might be in your shoulders. Just kind of get used to where that location is and feel it. Is it a heavy feeling? Is it a light feeling? Is it moving? And you'll notice that you recognize the feeling. Like it'll be a feeling that you felt for a long, long time, possibly almost your entire life. And the reason that it's still there is because you haven't processed it out. So feel into, as in put all of your attention on that negative emotion. Just give your awareness to it. And the key here is typically when people feel a negative emotion, they don't like it. So again, it's their shadow. So they either run from it. So they try not to feel the emotion. They'll distract themselves or whatever to not feel it. Sometimes they'll even, mentally start thinking different thoughts to keep their mind busy so that they can put their attention on that instead of the feeling itself. But you have to go into the feeling. So think of the problem, feel the feeling. And then as you do, be neutral in your perception of the feeling. Don't beat yourself up. Don't get mad at the feeling for existing because it's there for a reason. It's your subconscious mind talking to you. So be thankful, be appreciative, be positive towards the feeling, and don't run from it. So the technique that I like to give to newcomers it's called Ho'oponopono. It's an old Hawaiian prayer. And essentially what it does is, again, you normally would react negatively to the feeling. But if we want to rebalance that feeling out, we're going to react positively to the feeling. And that will help. I'm not going to get into the neurosynaptic pathway side of things, but there's a lot of stuff. It's called neuroplasticity, essentially. And it's happening in the brain as you are rebalancing out that feeling. So focus on the negative feeling and then say 4 phrases to it. Say, I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me, and thank you. And do that again. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me, and thank you. And as you do, if you're really focusing on this feeling, it can be sadness, it can be negativity of some kind, you'll notice that the feeling will start to shift or dissipate. And a lot of people at this moment, because they've never faced these feelings before, they will start to tear up or even burst into tears. I've had people who start to actually physically convulse almost just from saying these phrases, because this is you confronting that part of you that you've been repressing, suppressing, running from, and avoiding your entire life because you're scared of it, because it doesn't feel good. But in running from it, you are telling it that there's something wrong with it, that you're invalidating it. And all it wants to do is get your attention to be processed out, because that pocket of negative emotion comes from you as a child who was hurt in some way and has needed you your entire life. It didn't have, that child version of you didn't have somebody to help them through what they were going through at that moment when this negative feeling took place the very first time from whoever had did whatever to you. And so this child has been yearning for love and attention and acceptance and some kind of positivity that they didn't get at the time when whatever trauma it was took place. So what you're doing is you're essentially in this moment, because I won't get into this, but there is only one moment. Our past and our future are in our head, because the now is all that's ever existed in terms of like, yeah, think about any moment in time. It's always been now. But essentially you are right now going into the feeling, and you are giving love to that that younger version of you, that child version of you. So say those 4 phrases to it. You'll probably get a big reaction. And then after you say those 4 phrases, you'll notice that one of the phrases resonates more with the feeling than any of the other ones. Then focus on the sensation, that feeling some more, and then pick that one phrase and say that to it. Keep saying it over and over to the feeling, and you'll notice in time it will dissipate. If it's something deeper, then there could be more, which different processes would need to be used then. But people typically get quite a lot of relief from just this. And this is an example, like, yes, you might cry. Yes, you have to feel the negative feeling, but you feel so much better after. And this is the last time you have to feel it for your whole life. So I feel like it's better to confront it and feel it instead of feel a little bit of it every single day while running from it every single day for the rest of your life. So it's really not that scary to like face your emotions and do shadow work. It's liberating. You get your power back essentially in your life, because when you're obstructed by something, you know how to deal with it now. And you just move it out of the way and you just keep going in the direction of your intention.
Let's talk about how important visualization and imagination in general is when utilizing some of these techniques. This has been tremendous in my own life, not only with sorting out different emotions and traumas, but manifesting great things in my life, in my waking life, in relationships and everything, is the process of visualizing things the way you want it. And not only that, there's different healing techniques I've used to feel better physically and internally just by imagining certain things and being creative with it. And I think there's no limit to what we can imagine and how it connects to our physiology and our material realm.
Absolutely. So when I meditate, very much of it is visual. So people don't realize oftentimes that all of the 5 senses that we have in our external world, we also have in our internal world. So our mind's eye, for example, like I was mentioning, how does a thought come to you? Do you see a scene playing out of you saying something to somebody, or do you see somebody hanging out or whatever? Sometimes people think they can't visualize, but everyone can, unless obviously there's an obstruction to your capacity in your brain or something. But yeah, so we have the same 5 senses internally as we do externally. One that people have a tricky time with. And this is when I say sensing energy or sensing the sensation. If you imagine, just close your eyes and imagine touching your right hand onto a wet carpet. As you imagine that thought, there's a sensation there. In order for you to understand what I just said, you needed to internally do it. So what does the feeling feel like to touch a wet carpet with your right hand? You are sensing energy there. And I say energy, but I can use that interchangeably with the word vibration, because everything in the universe is vibration at a quantum level. And so even though we can't see it in the physical world, we know that it's there within us. And so you are tapping into that vibration. So, and as you do that, do you see your hand touching the carpet? Where do you see your hand touching the carpet? For me, I see it. It's kind of like in front of me, but off to the right a little bit. And then it's like, is it dim or is it light? Is it moving? Is it still? Like, you can get so granular with how you do things at a subconscious level. And once you do, you can analyze it, dissect it, and be like, okay, I think certain thoughts that are positive and they are represented this way. I think negative thoughts that are this way. And then you can play with those, what are called submodalities. And I won't get into all that, but I use visualization very heavily in meditation. And you were talking about, manifestation. So a big thing that I have a beef with for most gurus online, spiritual gurus, manifestation gurus, they'll be like, oh, you just think about it. Just think about it. And that's it. It's like, there's more to it when you know how the subconscious mind works so again, like we were saying before, if you think about something, so if any of the listeners right now can think about something that they really, really, really want, something they want so bad in life, but they haven't moved forward with. So think about that thing that you really, 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 really want. And as you think about it, notice what thoughts come up telling you that'll never happen or you're not good enough. What feelings come up in you telling you the same? Where do you feel a heaviness? Where do you feel some kind of negativity? And what is that negativity telling you in your body via the sensation, the feeling? So yes, you can think all you want and visualize. It's amazing. Do it. That's so powerful. Visualize what you want. But the thing no one talks about is, and so many people are visualizing, and they're like, why am I not getting it? Pay attention to what is obstructing, what is in you that's stopping you from acting on that thing, because we do need to take action to make it happen. So pay attention to what subconsciously is popping up in you in all the different ways that's telling you you're not going to do it. You can't do it, because you will react in reality based on what blocks, subconscious blocks, are in your field.
For the last few minutes we have, let's talk a little bit about some techniques for clearing our mind, especially during meditation. You mentioned that you are involved in meditative practices quite often. This was a problem for me, and it still is occasionally, trying to meditate, trying to clear the mind, and even when I'm trying to go to sleep, trying to clear all that clutter out of there. Maybe you could share some of the techniques that you use.
Yeah. So I had the same thing when I first started meditating. It was like impossible to turn my mind off. Like I was the kind of person who's just do all the time, think all the time. And I thought I was so efficient until I started meditating. And I'm like, oh no, I was compensating for something. So what I do, so first of all, you want to just sit in meditation. The main thing, the most important thing is do not throw up judgment of what you see. You are just observing. You are just being. You are just the flashlight of awareness looking at what's taking place. I know it's cliche to say you are not your thoughts. Just see them as clouds floating by, but that is so true. Like literally just see what's taking place. The key is to not let it suck you in. So when you have an emotion or when you have a thought, or they could, one could go back and forth into the other. When you have an emotion or a thought, you'll notice it's almost like there's a gravity to it and you get sucked in. And as you get sucked in, it's almost like imagine being in a theater and you're watching a movie and you are so immersed in the storyline. It's as if you're in the movie. It's like you're one of the characters. But then everyone's had the experience where maybe their phone will go off or someone will cough and you'll get like jarred back out. And suddenly you realize you're sitting in the theater and you're looking at a screen. And it's a much different experience as you're sitting there looking at the screen, very aware that you're looking at the screen. You're just watching a movie. You're not immersed in the story. But then soon enough, you get sucked in again. So it's the exact same thing with meditating. It's the exact same thing with both your emotions, your feelings, and the thoughts. Is that see the thoughts, and when you see them there, it'll be hard at first, but just be mindful. There's a transition point when you get sucked in by the gravity, and then all of a sudden you're immersed in this story. You're either immersed in the full emotion where you're feeling it everywhere, and then maybe you'll start thinking the thought, and then maybe you'll start to get movies playing out. So the key is just when you notice that you've been sucked in, because you will be sucked in, especially at first, when you notice you've been sucked in, just notice and then take a conscious step back, as if you are becoming third person, just like in the theater. So you're becoming third person and you turn it into an object. So suddenly your thought is an object and you see it there as an object, but you're not sucked in by the gravity. You can feel the feeling of whatever sensation, whatever emotions in your body, and you see it there and you know that it is not your reality. It's not happening in this present moment. It's just an object. And I like to tell people, like, like turn it into a cloud, turn it into an object there. Because for me, again, visualizing, I kind of visualize the emotion. It's almost like it's a cloud. I don't know how everyone else interprets it, but that's what I do. So I see it there. And then again, you just maintain that. You keep, it's almost like juggling your thoughts and your feelings. You're seeing them both there at the same time, or if there's multiple, you see them there at the same time, but they're objects. You are looking objectively at them from third person. You are the flashlight looking at these objects. And then you'll get sucked in again. And then you'll become aware that you've been sucked in and you step back. And that's what the practice is every time you do it, you'll become aware and you can step back a little sooner and a little sooner and a little sooner. And then you don't really get sucked in as much as time goes on. And that's really the key.
One more thing I wanted to touch on before we close out. The concept of the higher self, do you think this is at all related to the subconscious or part of it?
Yeah, so I do definitely believe in the higher self. I think it's like all soul levels and stuff. So I follow Bashar, who is the main person I get my information from when it comes to that, because I find that he is really on point with his way of depicting what takes place. So the higher self kind of has the roadmap and lays everything out based on like the template reality that you have, predetermined before you come into this life. And then the conscious mind is just moving along and making decisions, based on the path ahead. And then the subconscious mind, from my understanding, is as we're children, experiences happen. And as those experiences happen, in order to keep us safe, we create patterns at a subconscious level so that, for example, if you're attacked by a dog, then don't go near dogs anymore, as a kid for a time until you become an adult and you can process that out and you can, make your own decisions without the feeling of fear taking you over, which is what the subconscious pattern is your feelings are dictating what your actions are. But essentially, we have so many experiences from our past as children, and those experiences tell us, hey, this situation or this item in our external world is positive, so we can move towards that. And this one is negative, so we have to move away from that. And I think that is what essentially were computer programs. The subconscious mind's role is to keep us safe. So it's kind of more the granular level. It makes it so that we don't have to consciously be like, oh, there's a snake on the ground. What should I do? Is it a snake? Is it not? Like, it's just like, bam, get out of the way. So it saves time and keeps us safe. And there's just certain things that as subconscious patterns happen, they become outdated, or they can kind of get kind of overdone, I suppose, and we can get sucked in and not be able to get rid of them. So I would say essentially the subconscious mind is there to keep us efficient, keep us safe, and not have to think about those things at a conscious level.
Right on. Nikki, thank you so much. This was another wonderful conversation. Before you go, remind the audience how they can find out more about you.
Yes, so I am at nikkinicholas.com, so NIKKINICHOLAS.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. And if anyone wants to learn more about what I do, actually, I'm doing a free workshop in the coming weeks. So if anyone wants to sign up for that, I like to give a free gift to anybody who comes onto these podcasts. So I'll leave a link to that with the show notes if anyone wants to learn. Essentially, in my workshops, I teach these concepts. And then at the end of the workshop, I also give time where people can come on and have a chat with me one-on-one and do kind of a Q&A session. And sometimes I'll do a free process on someone to remove some of their blocks.
Excellent.
So if anyone's interested in that, yeah. So I'll leave a link with Chris, and yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys.
Excellent, Nikki. Thank you so much. Love to talk again in the future. And until next time, everyone, have a wonderful evening. We'll talk again tomorrow. We'll see you then. Hello, friends. Have you tried what may be the most powerful antioxidant known to man? C60 PurplePower. My C60 story has led me to great health mentally and physically. It's helped me personally lose weight, have more energy, and fight aging in general. You can also get C60 for your pets. Our dogs love it. They may live forever. Go check out C60 for yourself. If you use the link right in the description, you're going to get 10% off your order plus free shipping. They have some incredible new products like gummies, oils, and much more.